Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick. I support women to bloom in midlife. I'm your host of Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibility in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their stories and hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. If you haven't already, please follow the link in the show notes below and download my midlife meditation, which I've created for you to remind you that your life is a precious gift. And also tune into Her Inspirations, which is the sister podcast to this title. In each episode, I aim to inspire midlife women to recognize and embrace the wisdom of our experiences and allow this next chapter of our lives to be the most free and the most fruitful. Midlife is your time to bloom. My guest this week is Dana Johnson. Her work supports the spiritual and creative awakening we are all experiencing by helping creative entrepreneurs to tap into their authentic self through organic marketing strategies. She guides them to embrace a slower and more intentional approach, elevating their energy and message and creating ripples of positive impact in their industries. During our conversation, she shares how to work without overwhelm, share with authenticity, and about using AI to assist in her work. So as always, I begin by asking my guest, HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel that higher energetic resonance?
In full transparency, I feel like it depends on the day. I'm not feeling highly energetic today at all with lifing at me today. But typically, I would say I feel most of my highest energy when I'm fully immersed in boredom thinking, honestly, and then I'm going to explain what that means. I work with organic marketing, and a lot of my best ideas or my best content or even the inspiration for my podcast came from when I was walking and just kind of let my brain wander, as opposed to I have this deadline, I have this creative project I have to get done, I'm knee deep in childhood, what have you. It's when I'm out and I'm allowed to just be bored and let my brain brainstorm whatever it wants to. That's usually when I feel like I'm at my highest energy and can fully immerse in where I'm at right now, where I want to go, and transform myself into how I'm going to get there.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I like that boredom thinking. We can come back to that again as well as something we can really look at. But before we go a bit further, just explain or share something about you, how you got to be doing the work that you are doing today.
It's been a roller coaster. I started my entrepreneur journey as a stay-at-home mom, and I wanted to do something that still included the skill set that I went to college for. And so I became a wedding planner, and I did it part-time. I was mostly what you would call like day of or month of event manager. I love logistics, and I love like bringing all the moving pieces together. I am not a designer by any means. I am jealous of those that can walk into a blank space and turn it into this Pinterest perfect, like head to toe, top to bottom experience just by florals and lighting and drapery. And I cannot do that, but I can find the vendors that can and coordinate with them to make it happen, is how I described myself as a wedding planner. So fast forward, I love that industry, but in 2020, literally everything stopped. Events were scrambling to even happen, let alone who knew what was going to happen to them in the long run. And as a single mom of 3 children, trying to figure out childcare for 3 children in the middle of, social distancing was more stressful than managing the entire event. So I pivoted very quickly to collaborate with wedding professionals and support them remotely
Mm.
um, with their admin tasks and all the things that I know that the more creative entrepreneurs dislike doing and put it off until the last minute. So creating the timelines, emailing vendors, responding to couples. Like they love working with the couples one on one, but answering the 5,000 emails that may or may not come is very stressful. And they don't do like to do it. So I do that part. And then that led me into, well, how can I help you find more leads? Because again, wedding shows, which is normally a big lead force, wasn't really happening. So now how do you reach your brides? And
Mm.
so I've always been a big believer in organic marketing, networking, and really building those relationships. But how can you do that in the online space? And I came across a workshop, like one of those free masterclass things talking about how to use Pinterest in your organic marketing. And wedding planners are already all over Pinterest. Their couples are already there looking for ideas and building out their brand vision board. So I was like, how can we tap into that market to where your content is marrying the keywords that your ideal couple is already looking for? And so that solution finding experience, like excursion, I guess, is what led
Mm.
me to where I'm at today and doing it full time.
Great, and it's good as well that you found a way to navigate what was happening in the world and kind of really jump on the wave of where everyone was moving. Because it's very interesting that whole period of time was a real split. For some people, just kind of sunk deeper into the fear. Others really got activated into the world's changing and I need to change ASAP and really benefit from that as well. Why do you think it was that you saw the opportunity or were able to like grasp the opportunity and move with it in that space of time?
I think everyone has their own version of this story. I
Mm.
think for me, it was desperation. I had to do something. I was working a full-time job when I was doing my side hustle of assisting weddings and stuff. And it was just out of desperation of I didn't want to lose that cushion in my budget as a single mom. So the key, I think, is to notice those moments and then just lean into that gap. If it feels aligned, just, run with it. Even when life gets busy, like this is what we're going to do. This is what I feel like is the best option. I'm going to give it, I don't want to say my full attention, but as much of my attention as humanly possible and be, you know, intentional with it so that it goes somewhere. I think that is the best advice is just figuring out a way to make it work. So when I first started growing my business, it was in the car line. It was after kids went to bed. It was, I just fitted in small increments until I was able to do it part time, not
Mm.
side hustle time. And then now I'm doing it full time.
And what would you say is some of the biggest lessons or the transformations in yourself that you've learned as a result of creating your own online business or business in itself and moving away from the structure of a full-time job?
Learning to balance roles has been the biggest lesson, probably the hardest lesson.
Mhm.
It helps me keep perspective of the work that I'm doing. There's a lot of layers to it. I don't know, there's not like a linear, oh, this is amazing. It's, my kids get to see me work and figuring out how to problem solve. They get to see me be creative. They get to watch me do things that not everyone else does. They may not fully understand what it is that I do, but they get to see me doing something on my own and making money and still being able to go to their basketball games or when they're sick. He's currently on my floor, so like they get to see me do this podcast and learn a whole new thing. I hope that that lesson in itself is just inspiring to you don't have to do the standard traditional 9 to 5. You can run your own bakery. You can have a cotton candy stand. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. You just have to be intentional and have a strong work ethic that
Mm.
carries over into indie industry. I would say being honest about challenges and not trying to do it all, giving myself grace, honestly, giving everyone grace, and to lean into like systems and workflows to keep life and business running smoothly. So I think in the professional world, we talk about systems and workflows, but as a work from home parent, you need those in your personal life too. I have my groceries delivered now. And I used to hate that. I hated that idea. I was like, no, I can just make time to go to the store. But what that ended up being is what I can do my order the night before or 2 days before after my kids go to bed and then schedule it to be delivered in the morning. But while it's being done, I'm spending time with my kids or we're together cleaning the house before we go and run to whatever sport or errands or anything else. It's almost like multitasking without me having to do the
Mm.
tasking at the same time.
You were talking about boredom thinking, and I really liked that term that you used, the idea of using boredom for inspiration, as opposed to trying to be stimulated into an idea. How did you get to that point where you realized that those moments were the most fruitful for you when you were coming with creative ideas and moving through any challenges or problems that you may encounter?
I think we're all overstimulated.
Nice response.
Honestly, I think because you hear about people taking a like social media detox and then they come back super refreshed, and, like ready to hit the ground running. And so I wanted to figure out a way to do that every day. And that's where I started time management, basically blocking my schedule and leaving space because I used to do meetings back to back to back, and there was no time in between. So I wouldn't have time to even stand up if I needed to go to the bathroom or refresh my water. Like I was running and hoping that one meeting ended early enough for me to go do these things so I could be back and be ready for the next meeting. And so I started one using a scheduling link and then allowing the buffers. I then said I could only recognized that I could only do 3 meetings a day without feeling completely swamped, but that left me enough time to get my client work done, work on my own business, um, and just leaving blank space, like allowing myself, prioritizing the ability to not have something to do because I don't like sitting still. So I like to laugh and say that I'm actually never bored. Like if this didn't happen, like our recording, I would have found something else to fill my time. Like I just keep on go mode. And so leaning into I'm just gonna walk. I'm not gonna be on my phone while I walk. I'm gonna have music in my AirPods and my phone is going to be down and I'm just going to walk on this treadmill or I'm going to walk outside. It's too cold for me to go outside right now. Wherever it is and just what happens to come up comes up. And usually it's work related because once my kids are home, there's no work happening, not very well. That's when like, oh, I'm gonna launch a podcast and I'm gonna think about everything that I need to do this podcast. And then when I get to my computer or wherever, I'm gonna write it all down and then we're gonna launch it. It was recognizing, I think, that I was tired
Mm.
all the time. And so I focused on reclaiming my time by moving to a scheduler, allowing the buffers that are built in to happen, minimizing the amount of meetings that I have per day, and then sticking to that as much as possible. I mean, flexibility, I don't say don't stop being flexible, be flexible, but don't have 5 days out of the week where you have 4 to 5 meetings and then wonder why you're burnt out by Saturday and wanna get a regular job. Like, I would want to do that too, but I have to put myself, like, first. So, I drop my kids off, I go to the gym, and then I start work, and I try not to deviate from that one part as much as possible.
Yeah, those schedulers, I like what we've got available as little bits of automation, that can kind of move things around. And then as well, I think we had an overlap, just kind of looking at the where there's no space, and
Mhm,
where I was previous to where you'd booked in to kind of record with me was overlapping with something else. There's two calendars that just actually don't talk to each other. They're on different platforms. It's not going to happen. Um, but then also having the ability to kind of move things, and also not trying to do things that are, like you say, back to back. Because I personally used to do that as well. It's like, here's a day, let's fill a day with all the stuff, until by the end of the day it becomes very difficult to kind of show up in the way that I want to show up. Like if someone's coming on another Zoom call as another client, then I'm just, by the end of the day, they're not really going to get all of me, because, the physical needs are popping in. Like you say, like I could stand up and just walk around for a little bit and just get some blood running through my legs, or go and have a drink. Go and stand outside and actually gaze at something that's not just 30 centimeters in front of me, but like have long range vision. Because
mhm,
you forget sometimes when you're sat in front of a laptop that you're not really utilizing your eyes, like simple things like that, let
mhm,
alone all the other things that like drain your energy and your mind and everything. That you think sometimes, I think it might look like when you're sitting behind a laptop. And I know that I've had this conversation with people that I know that just do different kind of work. The idea that I'm sitting behind a laptop isn't just me scrolling on Facebook. There's like some serious work that's doing, and it's imagine, just because I can take the laptop anywhere, and it makes it look easy, that it isn't easy. So those are interesting things to do. How other ways do you use to pour into yourself?
I will talk about this often, actually. And build a support system is at the top of my list. Surround yourself with people, and this can be in person or virtually, because, like, my podcast co host, I have never met her in person, but we talk every day. So, surrounding yourself with people who believe in your vision of whatever that vision is, whether it's finding a mentor. Hopefully you have a supportive spouse, or, a community of like-minded entrepreneurs. You don't have to really navigate it alone. You may be a solopreneur, but that doesn't mean you have to, handle the mental load of everything. So I have a great community of people that support me and will listen to me when I need to vent. They'll help me snap out of it and get back to reality, to like hit the, like, you can do this, vent, let it out of your system, but you got to get a move on it. And here's what I think you should do, or here's a few alternatives, whatever the case may be.
Mm.
Um, I prioritize those systems that we talked about, and I've started it early. Now I revamped them, and my goal for 2025 is investing in better systems, because I think I did piece them together, but I've also transitioned into new services, and the systems I had before really no longer work. So recognizing that part too is the system really working? If it's not, I'm going to change it. So I have systems in place that reduce overwhelm. I have pulled in my support team, which includes my kids, to help more around the house, because if they made the mess, they can help clean the mess. And then I just give, like I said earlier, I kind of give myself grace and recognize that I'm learning, I'm still growing. I've been in business 5 years officially. Um, Only full time, I think 2, maybe 3. And, I'm still actively building something that's gonna be amazing. It's already amazing, but there's gonna be missteps, there's gonna be challenges. I feel like every day is a different challenge.
Mm,
But, the transition is happening and like great things are in the works.
good. So tell me about your podcast. What inspired you to think even that you wanted to start a podcast, and then why did you go ahead? Because many people say, and not many people do.
Um, well, I'm a very big believer in actions speak louder than words.
Mm,
So I've always been an action taker. I'll talk about it. I might mull for a little while, but eventually I'm just going to dive deep into it. So the first podcast is called The Entrepreneur Encounter. It's soft skills focused, professional development and helping entrepreneurs, especially those early stage entrepreneurs, with learning and honing in on those skills needed to be an entrepreneur.
mm,
um it wasn't my idea. In full transparency, I had no interest. It was never even like one of those pipe dream brainstorming things of having a podcast. My friend Sarah, who's the co-host, we became accountability buddies through a Facebook group, which is how we met. She commented, I commented that scenario. And she mentioned it in passing. She's like, I really want to start a podcast and I want to co-host and I want to be able to talk about this. She has an
mm,
HR background. I was like, well, that aligns with what you want to do. And she didn't even ask. I just pitched myself. I was like, if I don't have to show my face, I can talk all day long and I could be your co-host. And that's how it started. That's how it
mm.
started. Just
Okay.
kind of supporting her dream of having a podcast. And I mean, if she found someone else, I wasn't going to be upset, but I wanted to help her lay the foundation and get things started, and we did.
Mm.
Actually, tomorrow, because at the time of the recording, it's the 22nd. Tomorrow is our 3-year anniversary of launching the podcast.
Congratulations, because
Yeah.
not many people make it past, I think it's 10 is like the pod fade um average. If you
Yes, that's what she
make,
was saying.
yeah, many of them don't get it past 10, but good for you for like keeping it going. And it's I think people tend not to realize there's quite a little bit of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and good that you've got 50% of it, you've got someone to lean on. And it's interesting how podcasting has become almost part of your kind of part of what you do and part of who you represent for many people. If they have a brand and they're doing a certain type of work, having that additional platform to speak to your audience, speak to prospective clients like that as well, has really opened up and grown in a way that I didn't know where it was going to go, really. Like when I started mine in 2017, I'd been listening to a few people that now they've kind of, I started listening to them on SoundCloud, even when I started listening to some of those, and I was like, I think I can do that. I knew I could see all the bits that needed to come together. I came from a music background, so I could see the layers of like, oh, you need this, and this, and I've got the software to do it already, and I was using Zoom back then when I first started. But even when I started, I was like, I'm going to do this because I have a real idea. But there was part of me that thought I might be late. But I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway, even though I think like everyone's over the whole idea of a podcast. But so glad that I did it, and then have just kind of kept going with it and everything like that. And I get to meet so many different women from so many different backgrounds. It just kind of builds and grows, and also it's good for the audience to get an idea of what's possible as a woman. That kind of builds on the whole thing. So it's never just specifically about spirituality, but all about the audience, and I really know them and what they're interested in now as well. So it's not just personal development. Sometimes that personal development kind of expands out into a business, which is why I wanted to speak to you, because some of the things that I hear back from them. It's like, how do I show up on social media? A lot of the time they feel overwhelmed, or they're trying to figure out some strategy, and there's like so many people out there that are putting out their version of things. So if you were to share some wisdom from your own experience when it comes to putting out social media posts, or and also choosing what platform works for what you're doing, what could you share at that point?
I would start with trust yourself and the process. The process is bumpy. It doesn't matter if you're 5 years in the business, you're 1 year in the business. There's like, I wouldn't even say like Jenna Kutcher, she makes millions of dollars and charges a lot of money and posts multiple times a day. But she started just like we are. She started her podcast recording in her car. And she was intentional and she invested in the right systems, and she didn't wait for connections to come to her. She went and got them. And that's really all we need to do, and just accept that it's a journey and it's not going to happen overnight. It did not happen for her. It is not going to happen for us. But I think social media wise, do not want, it's gonna sound confusing, but don't invest in just one platform. I would say choose two, but choose the two that your main one should be where your clients are going to be hanging out at. So for me, my ideal clients are creative business owners and wedding planners. They're on Instagram. So I'm going to be on Instagram, and that's where I'm going to spend most of my marketing minutes. But then I'm going to repurpose my content to give it a longer shelf life. And that's where Pinterest comes in, or Google, or some sort of SEO. So I'm going to make content on those platforms for longevity. So if life happens and I miss a day for whatever reason on Instagram or Facebook, or if you're on TikTok, you have something working behind the scenes for you, just to keep traffic and eyeballs on what it is that you're doing. So pick a platform, but don't put them all. Like if Instagram shut down tomorrow, I mean, I would feel it, but I have a presence on Facebook, so I could utilize that. I do have a presence on Pinterest, so it would suck to pivot, but I wouldn't be starting over from scratch. And so that's where, pick one platform to do your main focus, and then have something else to repurpose that content, however it is that you see fit.
And what have you found useful when it comes to the way that you put your message out there and explain what it is that you do and make it unique to you?
I definitely made sure that my story is at the forefront, like is the foundation for everything. So, and my passion and why I'm in business, I share my why all the time in some way, shape, or form, and say, this is why I created this service, because I was a wedding professional. So I have walked the walk, I have talked the talk. I know having more eyes on your work that you spend more than a year on is important. And social media, then posts disappear in 24 hours and you have to create new ones, and that's where the overwhelm comes from. So trying to figure that out is what I was passionate about, and so that's why I have this is why I do this. I think educating is my biggest thing. So, but that's just who I am as a person. I'm a nurturer and I'm an educator. I want to explain how things work, or I want to dive into why something works and then help someone else understand it. And so I let that be present in my content, in my storytelling, in whatever it is that I'm doing. It comes across as that.
What are you seeing or sensing in terms of where things are going with how people show up online, especially as we're now having more automated systems, and then also artificial intelligence that could potentially be someone's voice? I know people have, use this prompt to create the next 90 days worth of stuff, but How have you lent into using AI? Do you envisage that you will, or will you maintain your human integrity? How's that going to impact you, do you think?
I use AI all the time because
Mm,
I have a hard time getting my thoughts out and onto paper. So I brain dump, here's something that I want to share. And I have trained my AI tool to sound like me. That's where like the branding guide. I've had it ask me questions to really get to know me and how I speak and how I support my clients so that whenever I do brain dump and I'm working on my content calendar of what to put out or even my podcast like show notes, it's topics that I was inspired by. It's bullet points that I want to make sure are present and included, but I let AI morph it together. And even then I still go off script, but it
mm,
sounds like me. It doesn't sound like a robot because I'll still tweak it. If I don't like it and I say, no, I would not ever say whatever word it comes out with,
mm, mm.
I tell it to remember that and not use it again. And then that's the training part. I think people use AI almost like a band-aid and think, oh, it can just think for me. And that's not the case.
Mm.
I go back and forth with it all the time of, no, I wouldn't do that. Let's do this. I also have manners and I thank it for listening to me ramble. And just, it's very uplifting. So even using something like that,
Mm,
I went through I journal with AI and
mm,
say, these are the questions I want to navigate through. Help me, one, go in order, but two, help me like organize my thoughts and stuff. I know another coach, she she used it for personal reasons too. She got a letter from her dad who she had a rough relationship with, and she's like, I need help brain dumping and processing this letter. So she put the letter in there and went back and forth with it and had helped her soundboard it out without burdening someone else. It was really interesting to see how she did that.
okay. And it was useful for her to do
Mhm,
that with AI. That's interesting.
mhm. I like how it's just like that neutral third party. So even with my time blocking,
Mm,
I said, this is how my schedule is currently set up. I am a woman, I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, and I have ADD, ADHD. Help me with a better schedule that flows for me to get my client work done, but have the space to still be present with my family and to do this. And that's currently the schedule we're testing out in the last 2 weeks. So far,
cool.
so good.
Great stuff. So what's lined up for you in the future, 2025 and beyond? How's it panning out for you?
It's panning out pretty well so far. My goal is to really boost and grow my pin graphic template subscription. It's called the Styled Pin Collection. It kind of helps creative business owners take that guesswork out of Pinterest marketing. It's
Mm,
super affordable. Each month you get 30 pin graphics that you can personalize with your own branding, fonts, colors, images, and it just helps you get your content on the platform as quickly as possible so that you can then go focus on something else. It's built to only take you an hour, maybe an hour and a half in a day, and but you have content for the entire month to be scheduled out.
And any tips that you can impart for anyone who is embarking on their own endeavor and is about to step out there online, something that you wish maybe you would have known when you first started?
I would say it's tempting to mimic others, especially those that inspired you to do it in the first place.
Mm,
But to be the most sustainable and even when times get hard in your business, you want to stay true to who you are and like your authentic self and your why. Remembering your why and having it be the foundation is going to be super important for those that are just getting started. My
mm,
why, even though my services have changed, my why is never, I don't like being told what to do. I like having time freedom. And that's always been my biggest focus is being able to take my kids to school, yes, I'll do client work, but if the day calls for me to run errands or to take a kid to the doctor, or my sister is visiting and I want to spend more time with her because we don't get to do that often, I have built something that has allowed me to do that. And if I need to do client work randomly after I put kids to bed, I have the capability of doing that because of the services that I offer.
And where can everybody find you, Dana, as well?
You can find me on Instagram at danas.desk.nc. And my website is ddvirtualmanagement.com.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you. It was a good one.
Thank you, Dana, for sharing your message with me, and thank you for listening. If you want to find out more about me, you can find out more on my website. It's carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaywhittick.com. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn under Carol May Whittick, and Kazmic on Threads now and on Instagram. That's CAZMICK. So until the next episode, take care. Speak soon. Bye.